Welcome back, everybody. We are in Marcus Aurelius. This is part, oh goodness, don't get me lying. Is it part six, I believe?
Sure, it's something like that.
Oh my God. Well, I'm pretty sure it's part six.
Well, when you click on the video, it'll say which part it is. So, yeah, just don't listen to that part. We'll just go straight into the book now. Mr. Schmidt. Yeah.
If I'm wrong, that's what it is.
The comedy relief hour over here in the Marcus Aurelius zone.
Man, I'm so happy to be in the presence, even if it is only in the words of such a fascinating person that can give us real guidance, a lot of illustrations on how to live better lives and be more thoughtful. And we're in the second book of his meditations. And Mr. Schmidt, just from your reading of this, what did you think about how it just started out?
I have to say that Marcus Aurelius has not disappointed. I mean, he really comes out almost every sentence is something to really stop, think, and contemplate on. For me, this is not a book that it's even a small book. You don't read this in a day or a week or a month. It takes some time to look at it and then look inside yourself. And he also gives some homework in there, like write down the list of the people that are good to you and important in your life, and then to think about things like the last video that we did when he's talking about contemptible acts over what's worse is doing a premeditated act or if you just do it out of anger. And then he jumps into what we're talking about now, and he's talking about the gods. And this is the first real mention that Marcus Aurelius is talking about the gods. And again, we're going to the Roman gods. We're not talking about the biblical God or, gods, if you've read that book. We're talking about the Roman gods and how he thinks that the gods care about you and what you do, that they do have a hand in your life, which I thought was kind of interesting because so many philosophers from around the same time would disagree and say that the gods really don't care what goes on in the average person's life. I think that they would say that the gods use humans to move a certain path. And you hear that with a lot of the Greek and Roman stories because the Greek gods are basically the Roman gods. And I would say that most people would think that they use people and, manipulate them in this grand game that they're playing. But Marcus Aurelius has a different view on the matter, that he thinks the gods do care and are caring and loving to you and to them. So, I thought that was a different, interesting aspect or a outlook on it, rather.
I think that he's so, when you read it, it makes you stop and pause. It's like having a fine romantic dinner with a good glass of wine. You don't want to sit there like you're a starved pig and just start eat. You want to slowly digest it, slowly allow it to simmer and marinate in your mouth and enjoy every word because there's so many profound thoughts. Fortune is not separated from nature. Is how he basically starts off this paragraph, and even that makes you go, well, that's an interesting thought. I need to ponder that for a minute. Fortune is not separated from nature, and from thence all things flow. Everything is flowing. It is the advantage of the whole universe of what thou art a part. To recognize that we are a part of the universe. Everything, like we are just cosmic dust, as I said in a recent video. That is true, and for him to recognize that and to understand that everything is just an ebb and flow is something that we have to consider in our own lives when we're getting upset or stressed out about something or the world's falling apart. Everything has its ups and downs. We just have to figure out best how to navigate through it, and whether it is our own personal anxieties or our fears or anger or frustration at things, we understand it ebbs and flows. We are a part of the universe. The universe crashes into itself. We crash into our own selves. We crash into other people. We crash into other ideas. Um, it's just what happens. We have to recognize it and just roll with the punches and throw some back when necessary. And I just think it's great. So, cast away from the thirst. This is what I kind of didn't understand so much, as he says, cast away the thirst after books. Well, he was a avid reader and studier, a scholar of history, and non-stop. He had a traveling library with him. I don't know what he meant. Cast away the thirst after books. That's tough to do. Because he says that thou mayest not die mourning, but be cheerful, truly, from thy heart, thankful to the gods. I don't know if he's just saying don't get carried away with it. Like, hey, I don't know. That was one thing that I read that I went, come on, Marcus, what do you mean by that?
I've put some thought into it because we've broken this up into so many sections that when you go back, he is talking about in some of his earlier paragraphs that he's talking about the end of his life and to be happy at the end of your life. So I think this again might be him speaking maybe even more to himself and everyone else out there too, but that, you're at the end of your life, to stop thirsting for those things. You've done what you can, be happy with what you've got and just, relax. Coast in. You can't force anything. You're about to die. You don't know what's going to happen. So, stop trying to figure it out. You'll get there eventually. It's the next great adventure.
Yeah. Well, I just think he's so fascinating, and he puts down into words, how often that thou hast received an opportunity from the gods, and yet dost not use it. That's a lot. I mean, we get opportunities thrown in our way all the time, and we squander them, forget about them, don't recognize them until later.
It's actually quite interesting. I was having a personal reflection time probably 2 or 3 days ago, and it was right after I read this part of Marcus Aurelius, and I was just quietly thinking about different opportunities and things in my life of where I got lucky, or I had the opportunity to take advantage of it, and then some times where I just completely and utterly missed out. Like, I was thinking back, and there was a point when I was in high school and I was like, that's what they meant? Oh my God, I can't believe I had that opportunity. And I'm now thinking about this 15 or 16 years later. Like, I would have taken that opportunity, but I didn't even know that was the opportunity that was presented. I just completely...
What was it?
Didn't even... Oh, yeah. No, let's not go into what it was, because I don't want to display of how completely and utterly stupid I was, because anybody else out there would have been like, man, now you're really stupid. You didn't see that was an opportunity knocking, and I just completely didn't even see it. Apparently, it took me 16 years to figure out that was the opportunity that was knocking, and it was true, that opportunity didn't knock again. I guess it got sore knuckles. It was a pretty hard knock, bang on the door, and your wonderful friend over here, Trey, didn't hear it.
That's so funny. Yeah. Well, this goes right to the heart of that. A limit of time is fixed for thee. So, if you don't take those opportunities, you only got a limited amount of time. So if you didn't, too bad.
Yeah, no, it's probably too late to go back on that one now,
Well, I guess you could do as he does. He says, every moment think steadily as a Roman, and a man to do what thou hast in the hand with perfect and simple dignity. Now, I like that. And a feeling of affection and freedom and justice. Freedom. Let's just remember that word, shall we? Freedom and liberty.
Yeah, let's put an emphasis on that. Maybe we should, y'all should pause the video here and stop and think and reflect on that word. Go ahead, we'll wait.
Yeah.
All right.
And justice, and to give thyself relief from all other thoughts. That's an interesting thing to just say, hey, be steady and upright. Love your freedom. Have a feeling of affection, and just kind of go about your own, don't drown in your own thoughts. Don't let them distract you too bad. I think that's great advice, and he is able to live a life which flows in quiet. kind of like my wife does, sitting on her swing in our back porch. Lives a life of quiet and just niceness. It's wonderful. And that's sometimes hard to do. Sometimes you just have something to say.
There's a lot of times I think we probably have something to say.
Every man's life is sufficient. If sometimes, especially in this day, when there is practically no tolerance, there is nothing but a woke culture, a cancel culture, and stifling of opinions and real information. It's hard to go, man, how can this guy or that girl be sufficient and matter other than causing harm to all of mankind? You got to take a breath and go, well, maybe there is. Maybe there's not. I don't know. I struggle with that one.
Yeah, I'll just keep it short on that one. I struggle with it too. It's a challenge we all go through, I assume.
Yeah, so give thyself time to learn something new and good. See, that is why or how could that not be extremely valuable to everyone today? Give thyself time to learn something new and good and cease to be whirled around. Don't be whirling around. Just learn something and be good. Learn something new. I think that is great because it's just like the mind, thinking, learning. If you're not exercising your brain, it's just rotting and rusting, and you're not growing in a positive way. You've stopped. If you think you've known it all, if you think you know it all, then of course you are the fool of fools.
Isn't that so true? The problem is now, in today's world, there's so much information at hand and available. Where do you spend your time? I struggle with that one a lot, is where do you spend your time? That's why I've said in several videos that, and I think it's a great practice that everyone should at least do for a week or two, is write down and keep a journal of where every hour of your day goes. And I think you'd be surprised. I think we were looking at something before we came and shot this video that the average adult in the U.S. spends 5.5 hours a day on their phone. And I find that absolutely amazing. How can you spend, that's almost a full day of work that you're, looking at a piece of glass with a light behind it.
I think there are good and bad things with that. Like, there are very positive uses of that device. You can glance at the news. You can see the weather.
Well, I don't know if glancing at the news is a good use of your time. I would recommend everyone out there drop every news source available. Don't watch any of them because they're all horrible and they're owned by the same 3 corporations. Every one of them. Doesn't matter if you go to ABC, NBC, CBS. They're owned by the same people and they're all evil and they're all shooting the same narrative. And if you just, stop and use some logic, reason, you will probably see that they're all full of crap and you shouldn't listen to them. Yeah. They're just fear-mongering.
Well, you really should find, even in the use of your phone, you can find alternative sources that have good information that is documented and backed up, is sourced very well. There are still independent sources for good news. That still exists, even though they have been censored a lot. You still can find them. So there are good things, but most people, we all know, spend frivolous amounts of energy, not frivolous amounts of energy, they turn activities into frivolous nonsense, which there's no learning, there's no anything, it's just a waste of flesh.
Speaking of frivolous activities, I will digress shortly for this, but I wonder what are people doing on this 5.5 hours a day? Are they playing games? Are they looking at Facebook? And then if you're looking at Facebook,
TikTok,
TikTok, you're spending your time of your life watching other people live their life. So instead of you living a life, you're watching other people live a life until you can get your camera out and do some things that are worthy for you to post on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever. So the only way you know how to live your life is so that other people can live or watch you live your life. Seems ridiculous. Why wouldn't you just, instead of watching other people live their life, I don't know, like live your life?
Yeah, live it.
Because you've only got one of them that we know of, so you might as well make the most out of it.
For sure. Yeah.
Weird.
I agree. That's why I love Marcus. I love you, Marcus. If you were here right now, I'd grab you, hug you, and kiss you on the cheek, Marcus. I think we all would. Avoid being carried about in other ways. Just be focused on who and what you're doing. For those two, I was going to have a point there, but it just escaped me. But those two are triflers. These trifling people who have wearied themselves in life by their activities. It's exactly what we're talking about right now. Yeah. Don't be a trifling. Those who do not observe the moments and movements of their own minds must, of necessity, be unhappy. So if you don't observe your own movements, your own mind, how can you be happy?
No, you can't. I mean, I think that is one reason why we have so much unhappiness and depression in the country that we live in is nobody takes the time to reflect on their own life or what's even going on. They look at this Instagram or Snapchat or whatever and they say, well, this person's doing this person's driving this, without any reflection on, what am I doing? What have I really done? And what is this other person doing? Are they happy? Well, they've got this material thing, but what does it really mean to them? Do they examine for it? Do they work for it? Are they even proud of it?
Well, what Marcus is really doing in drilling these thoughts down is being a purveyor of wisdom. Instead of being a society or individual based solely on emotions, he is going the total opposite way with his belief system and how he lives his life, is to focus with reason, with understanding, with wisdom, and in all of this, the whole book, the whole thing boils down to that, because if you don't understand your mind, if you don't understand how you think, how can you be happy? You have to be unhappy, or you have to be miserable. You have to be not good. And always bear in mind, as he says, what is the nature of the whole? And what is my nature? And how is this related? It requires you to always think. You should think. Like, why did little bitty emotional set-offs, trigger you to act a certain way against, your parents or your Ashley or your kids or people around you? Little bitty simple things can pop all of us off. Take a little step back. Hey, why'd I just get upset about this? Is it trivial or is it like something of meaning? Well, let's think about the whole nature of the thing before I tear myself up emotionally over trifles. Yeah, and that's what he's saying. And how valuable is that every single day?
I would think it would be a good practice to start if you're not already doing it.
For sure. Offenses which are committed through desire are more blamable than those which are committed through anger. I think. Did we touch on that last week?
Yeah, we did.
We must be overlapping a little bit. But I think it is, since it is possible that thou mayest depart from life this very moment. Yeah, that is where we left off last week, I believe, which I love it. And it's important because you never know. This could be our very last moment, like right now. Right now. Could be. I mean, it's like yesterday. We had a big wedding here yesterday, and there are cars parked everywhere, and people are walking through what I call the park, all the beautiful grass area and underneath the trees, and all of a sudden this loud crack happens, and a massive branch. I mean, this is a clear day with no wind. Massive branch falls straight down right where some people walked a few minutes ago. I was like, well, that would have been really bad. Could have easily hit somebody right on their noggin and they would have went bye-bye. That is, you just never know. You just never know. And so the gods will not involve thee with evil. That is, let's not be afraid. I don't think any god, if they're, he's talking about Roman gods for sure. No, nobody wants evil, except for some of the psychopaths that are in the world and some of the elite Fruit Loops that are running around creating chaos. But I think for the most part, people want to be happy. I think that's why they distract themselves with these devices that we talk about. That's the perfect example to me of how we create unhappiness by preoccupying our mind with nonsense, like when SUVs have drop-down TVs to entertain kids in the back. I remember the first time I saw that, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever it first came out. Of course, I had an SUV with one of those in it. And I just remember thinking, this is the most ridiculous thing. Are you saying that people should not have conversations? Like you should not... I remember thinking, because I was wanting to have children, which I never had, I was thinking, am I going to do that? Am I going to be the parent that just says... I just don't want to talk to this kid anymore today. I've had enough today. I want him to sit back there or she and do nothing.
Every once in a while, everyone gets to that point. No matter how good you are, everybody needs a little, well, how about you just have some quiet time over there? Or you do this to distract for maybe an hour or two. Especially if they're really young children and you're with them all the time. Nap times are like the greatest thing ever. It's like it's getting close to nap time there, buddy. Because, you always want to be that, well, I would hope most people are always that person that want to answer that question, why? Why is this? Why is that? But it does get to a point where there's some things where you're like, all right, let's just take a step back. Or maybe when they say, Daddy, 1,000 times, and you have to answer what, and you've already told them 100 times, it's like, hey, just talk. I can hear you. Like I'm looking at you. I don't have to answer you what when you said Dad. I get it. Like just start talking. They don't get that. So you just say what. Okay, what.
Well, good for y'all. This is as Marcus continues on here. He says, either through want of power or want of skill, that good and evil should happen indiscriminately to the good and the bad. But death certainly, and life, honor and dishonor, pain and pleasure, all these things equally happen to good men and bad, being things which make us neither better nor worse. Therefore, they are neither good nor evil. That's a really interesting outlook on just everything in life. Things happen. He's basically just saying, hey, shit happens. Yeah. Get over it. Roll with it. That's just... It's a good t-shirt.
Yeah, it is. You have to look back in your own life. Good and evil happen to everyone. I think so many people question, why, God, why'd you let this happen to me? It happens to a lot of people all over the world. And I think especially living in the first world, we think, my grandma got cancer. Why'd you do that for? Why'd you take that from me? Well, that happens to people in third world countries, but, they had to work 12 hours at the Nike factory making tennis shoes for you so you could complain about them wearing out in 3 years and say, God, why am I cursed with my grandma dying of cancer?
Yeah, or you're not working in buildings around the world for all these little trifles that we consume and use, like the phone, where you have suicide nets around the buildings. You can't even kill yourself if you wanted to.
Well, not at work anyway. You have to wait till you get home. That's an off-the-clock kind of thing.
It's so strange. They're good and bad everywhere. Just try to roll with the punches, man. Don't just try to roll with the punches. How quickly all these things disappear. Everything. Just like stuff that made either one of us or any of y'all irritated a week ago, a year ago. You don't even remember it.
Most of those things, no.
Most of them, you don't. They disappear. They disappear in the universe, the bodies themselves disappear. But in time, the remembrance of them all goes away. Everything goes away. Why dwell on it? Why get your feelings in a big old knot over stuff that is not going to matter in the morning or not going to matter next week? It's good advice.
That's a learned kind of behavior. You really have to stop and try to practice those things, because it's pretty easy, especially if you're having an off day, to let something get under your skin and let that dwell on you. I mean, even between people that you love, you can have, they just say something the wrong way. Why'd you say it with so much attitude? You know, everybody's been there. I mean, I'm not saying we've all heard it, but we've all heard it. It's not what you said, it's how you said it. That made me feel this way. Okay, I'm sorry. 2 + 2 = 5. Whatever. All right, get over it. Jeez. I mean, you know what we're going to be talking about tomorrow morning? Not this. This is not what we're going to be talking about. Who cares if the ketchup touched your French fries? It's not that big of a deal. It's okay.
It's okay. Take a deep breath. You know, attract with bait of pleasure or terrified by pain, or noised about the vapory fame. How worthless and how contemptible, sordid and perishable and dead they are. Everything is basically, like you just said, gone, vanished, not going to be here tomorrow. We're not going to worry about it. It's all contemptible. It's all BS. And if anyone is afraid of an operation of nature, he is a child. That is wonderful, because that is true.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting. So many people are afraid of just those acts of nature that they cannot do anything about. Sure, you can prepare for some things and some events, but there's just acts of nature that are going to happen, like death. It's going to happen. It's going to come to everyone. And I've never understood, especially in Western society, of why people are so fixated with the negativity of death.
Especially whenever this is a Christian society, and everywhere you go, there's a church. I mean, you can't go a quarter mile, especially in the South, without running into some church somewhere where everybody is believing and preaching that, you know, you're going to go up there to the Jesus heaven.
Yeah, you know, they preach that, and if you put a gun to a Christian's head, they're not real calm people. They would cry and beg for their lives. They don't believe in that too much.
I mean, at least that's what the TV shows portray.
Well, you know, we're halfway through the Bible, and there's still no mention of heaven or hell, so somebody probably just made it up.
Yeah, it is kind of an interesting thing. But either way, a man cannot lose either the past or the future. For what a man has not, how can anyone take this from him? And I love that. You do not have the past. You do not have the future. Because everything that's happened in the past is just I mean, there's nothing in your memory that is probably going to be correct, especially the further back you go. It just made this imprint on your mind, and that even changes and alters.
His memory does change and alter, but I think the only thing you really do have is your past. It's fairly easy to come up with some fake charge and throw you in jail and take away your future. Somebody can take away your present by, you know, putting you in hard labor or jail or whatever, but your past, you can always look back on memories, even though they're not perfect representations of what happened.
But we don't have a future.
No, your future doesn't exist.
Your future is non-existent.
But I think the only thing we truly do have is our past. Because if we think about it, everything that we know is our past. We only know how to speak and have this conversation with each other because we learned the language of English. That was in our past.
I'm going to largely disagree with you. I'm going to say that I agree that on certain aspects of what you said, that we are building blocks of our past. All we have is the moment. We have this moment. We don't have the moments a few minutes ago. We have this one. and now this one, and now this one. So these moments are steadily building the blocks that create this past that we mostly forget about. There are only a few moments in our life that we even remember.
That is true. There's only certain moments that you remember, but a lot of those moments shape who we are and what we've become. The choices we made in the past, somebody can't take those choices away. That you've chosen to be in a lot of what and where we are. Like, for instance, we chose to start hanging out and seeing each other more. We weren't born or raised together. We made that choice in our past, and that past has brought us down the road. It set our path. So we might not remember a lot of those things, although we do remember a lot of shared times and memories. But if we didn't have that in our past, if we both had amnesia and went our separate ways.
I agree with your point, but I don't think that's all we have. I think the only true thing we have is this moment. We have to understand and recognize that we are the building blocks of that past, which mostly we don't even remember. Still built us, which I agree. But you only got this moment. So it's kind of like what we were talking about a minute ago with why be upset over trifles? You only got this one moment. Why ruin it with nonsense?
Yeah.
I mean, really, why ruin it? Why have bad attitude whenever if you just step back and go, I don't have tomorrow. I don't have yesterday. I have a memory of yesterday. I really only have right now. Do I want to spend my right now being a jackass, being rude, being intolerant, being woke? Whatever it is, you should, in Marcus's estimation and mine too, and I think yours too, is love it. Suck out the Melrose of life, as who did Emerson or Thoreau?
I think it was Thoreau.
One of them, brilliant. That is the essence of life. We don't know, and so thank you, Marcus, for reminding us in your beautiful and greatly illustrated meditations that we cannot take things basically for granted. Every second is what we have, and that's what we should cherish. And a man cannot lose a thing if he doesn't have it.
God, isn't that the truth? I think so many people worry about things that they could have potentially had, and they worry over those things. In most cases, it was never really something that you could have even got.
That's true.
Or they think, oh, I hate that I missed that opportunity, and they dwell their whole lives on that one missed opportunity, when they forget that even if you would have taken advantage of that opportunity, so many other things could go wrong, and it still could have not worked out. So there's no point in really dwelling over those things. You can look back and learn a lesson from that and be prepared for the next time. But everything is not one decision leads to success or one decision leads to failure. It's that next step. It's not the first step of a journey that's the most important. It's the next one, and then the next one.
Yeah. And remember that all is opinion. Everything is an opinion. All things.
Allegedly. That seems to be an opinion to me.
It is. The soul of man does violence to itself. Boy, it sure the hell does. For to be vexed at anything which happens is a separation of ourselves and from nature. I think that's just what we were just describing. Thank you, Marcus. You he must have been a Southern gentleman.
When I heard that, it really made me go back to, I thought about Ayn Rand when she's writing A Fountainhead, and there's that scene where Rourke is saying, it can only hurt so deep. It only hurts so deep.
There is a limit.
Yeah, there's a limit. There's some things that you should stop, look, and say, I could do more evil and more harm to myself. Or I can set aside and move on. They did what they did to me, and it went this far, and I can either keep helping them out and pushing it down deeper, or just let it go. It's like, all right, you did that to me, so all right, whatever. Or when somebody's saying bad things about you, and you might happen to meet them, and they say, oh, what do you think about me? I've wrote all these things about you. I don't think about you
At all.
at all. I don't. It doesn't make any difference if you like me or don't like me. I don't care.
The only thing that matters is, do you like yourself?
That is so important. And you can't love others unless you first love yourself. So that seems very important. First, you've got to know who you are and know what you can take and tolerate as a person before you can take and tolerate in other people.
And you have to learn. Thanks, Marcus. We should always learn. The soul does violence to itself when it turns away from any man or even moves towards him with the intention of injuring. I think that is true. I think we do ourselves harm by intending to injure someone. Such as are the souls of those who are angry.
It's kind of like what I was just talking about is, if somebody's writing or saying bad things about you and they say, oh, well, what do you think about me? Here's your chance to get back at me. I don't think about you.
I think so. I think you're right. In the third place, the soul does violence to itself when it is overpowered by pleasure or by pain. It's kind of like moderation.
Yeah.
Too much pleasure is a bad thing. Too much pain is a bad thing. And fourthly, when it plays a part and does or says anything insincerely and untruly. I think that's true. I think whenever you are insincere, it's like insincere flattery, untrue behavior, it causes a problem. It's a stain. You do yourself violence. You do your soul violence. I think that is absolutely, we all experience that. Well, unless you're a sociopath. I mean, we do see those. But when it allows, and he says fifthly, when it allows any act of its own and any movement to be without an aim. Man, that is true. You need an aim. And does anything thoughtlessly and without considering what it is. It being right that even the smallest things be done with reverence to the end. Man, I really, over the past couple of years, think about that. Not all the time, but I do think about it, especially when I'm in the library. And I just, whatever I'm doing, sometimes I'll kind of daydream off, but then I think, well, was this a good daydream? Was it like beneficial to me? It was almost like a form of meditation, or should I just get back over here and stay focused? And I sometimes will do one or the other. Sometimes I'll think, well, I should probably stay focused on this, what I was thinking about, that I meandered off to, or maybe I need to kick myself in the ass and get back over there and have reference for all the little small mundane details that we have to deal with every day. Like I should do those. I should enjoy them. I should be sincere, true with everyone around me, and I should keep aim. I don't have tomorrow. I don't own the future, but I need to know what I'm going to be doing an hour from now, or
But
2 hours from now, if I can.
But to keep aim, though, is also, if you don't know that you have a future, sometimes it is good to take that mental break and daydream where you would normally just push through. I think that
Yes.
it's probably a good goal to push through and get back on topic most of the time. But, you can allow yourself 3 to 5% of the time where you just relax and, all right, I did a lot, so I don't know 100% that I'm going to have that meeting tomorrow. I might die on the way to the airport to that meeting, so maybe I should just relax and have this little moment,
Yeah, absolutely. And he continues on so brilliantly. Everything which belongs to the body is a stream, and what belongs to the soul is a dream and vapor, and life is a warfare and a stranger's sojourn, and after fame is oblivion.
Yeah. I don't have really much to add to that because it's such a wonderful statement. I just, life's a strange journey and it should be reflected upon.
Yes, after fame there is oblivion. Yes, one thing and only one philosophy, but this consists in keeping the demon within a man free from violence and unharmed, superior to pains and pleasures, doing nothing without a purpose, nor yet falsely and with hypocrisy, not feeling the need of another man's doing or not doing. Don't care, waiting for death with a cheerful mind. come on, pal. It's just great. Nothing is evil which is according to nature. I think that is just a wonderful place to stop. Nothing is evil which is according to nature. How say you, sir?
You can't say anything, or I can't say anything other than completely agree with that. I mean, I have often questioned, though, on how can nature appear to be so evil. Like the other day, I was contemplating a thought. All right, so the Christians believe that there's this one all-powerful God, and he's so good. And I was walking across the grass barefooted, and I got a splinter. And I said, what kind of dick would put a splinter in beautiful grass? Like that right there. There's obviously no good, all-powerful being, or this grass wouldn't have a splinter. It's just stupid.
Well, maybe God just didn't think to even care if your feet got harmed by a splinter, but it's good for some other insect that he likes.
Probably so.
You never know.
That's why I was going to go back to, after you read this, it's like, well, nothing can be evil according to nature. I think so often in what I just said, I got caught up in my own being and what I think the world should be and exist, when that doesn't mean that the way I look at something is the way it should be.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
And me telling that little, recounting that story, I was really just making the point of, things aren't the way that they often appear to you. We have such a limited view of things. If I look just from 6 feet tall, there is no splinter. Until my foot steps on it, then there's obviously a splinter. But if you zoom out, to 30,000 feet, there is no tray.
That's right.
So, it can't be evil because it's there and it's according to nature. Evil, to me, is something that goes against nature, something that fights nature at every turn. Like a genetically modified food that you would put into your body. I would consider that evil, and I would think that that should be something that we as a people don't need a law or regulation set by some alternative authority, that we should stand up and not support those things and say, this is evil and I won't support it.
I think that goes back to what Marcus is saying about to learn. You need to learn, and learning is important, and we should learn reasons why we would or would not have medical procedures in this country that are being forced or in a very strong way. It's all the same thing. You need to learn. You need to take a deep breath. You need to not be influenced by everything and everyone around you. You need to absorb and filter out things for yourself and use your mind. Don't take it on faith.
No, that's the last thing you should take anything on, is faith. Faith is the lazy way out.
It's completely lazy. I had someone having a conversation about religion. I don't need to question the Bible, or I don't need to question these things. I don't need to worry about all these issues. I'm going to go along with authority, and I just need to have faith. I just believe that's the way it is. I just believe it. I don't need any justification. I don't need any rationale. I don't need anything tangible, provable, documentable, nothing. And I don't want to know, because I have faith. And I think that is a very, very dangerous proposition for all of humanity, when we have a large amount of people who believe that way. Quite strange. Sir, I will let you sign us off. And for everybody that have enjoyed us so far, whether you're enjoying us on Rumble, BitChute, YouTube, thank you. Visit our website. We have all of our different videos and topics separated in different sections to make it easy for whatever discussions that you like, whether it is delving into the Old Testament or into Stoicism or a whole wide variety of topics. Join us. Join the conversation.
And have a good day.